Hello, I'm Cheryl Austin, Extension Agent in Family and Community Health for Prairie View A&M University Cooperative Extension Program. And today, this presentation is called Know Your Numbers. According to the American Heart Association, individuals with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes are more likely to have high blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, and high blood sugar. They're also likely to be overweight or obese. All of these factors increase the risk of developing cardiovascular disease and other serious health complications. Three numbers that we're going to discuss today in this presentation are blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. All three of these are key indicators to our risk for major illnesses. So why do we need to monitor blood pressure? Well, high blood pressure is when the force of blood pushing against the walls of your blood vessels is consistently too high. So if you think about it, if the blood pressure, that force going through my blood vessels is consistently high, it's going to cause my heart to work harder, and it's also going to do some damage to the lining of those blood vessels. As those blood vessels get damaged, it's easier for plaque to form on the walls. So now the walls of the blood vessels are more narrow because we have all this plaque forming, and there's going to be less room for blood flow. So now when we have less room for blood flow, that's going to cause, again, that pressure to be higher. So with that happening, our risk for heart attack and stroke are increased. And the bad thing about it is we can have high blood pressure and not even know it, not even feel it. We don't feel any symptoms. And so because we don't feel any symptoms, we think things are okay. And yet internally, all of this damage is going on in our body and we don't even know it. But we would know it if we checked our blood pressure more often. So that's why it's important to get tested routinely. And that's why it's called the silent killer. So what's a normal blood pressure and what would be considered a high blood pressure reading? I want you to pause this presentation and talk about that one amongst each other. What is a normal blood pressure reading and what is considered a high blood pressure reading? This chart is from the American Heart Association. As you can see, it gives systolic and diastolic readings here for our blood pressure. Normal would be anything less than 120/80. We start getting in the elevated range as we get in between 120 to 129, and again, less than 80. But high blood pressure, as you can see, is anything over 130/80. 130/80 or higher is where we start getting into our high blood pressure ranges. So what can we do to maintain a healthy blood pressure? I want you to stop the presentation and just discuss that amongst yourselves. Talk about what are some things that we can do to make sure we have a healthy blood pressure. So some things that we can do for our blood pressure are eating a well-balanced diet that's low in fat. And when we say well-balanced diet, it means that I'm not just eating the same type of foods over and over again, or I'm not just eating one type of food. I need a balance of all of those food groups. I need protein, I need fruit and vegetables, I need dairy, I need grains. And I do need some fat, but I just don't need a lot of fat. I do need some salt, but I don't need a lot of sodium in my diet. So that's what we mean when we say well balanced. There's some variety there in moderation with everything. We want to limit our alcohol, quit smoking if we're a smoker, getting physical activity, whatever you enjoy doing, just get up and move. Managing our stress, whether that's through meditation, journaling, talking to someone, and then maintaining a healthy weight. And your doctor can let you know what would be a healthy weight for you as an individual. Cholesterol is the next number that we want to make sure that we know. And why do we need to monitor cholesterol? Well, cholesterol is a waxy substance that the body needs. The body actually does need cholesterol, but the liver makes all the cholesterol that we need to build cells, to make vitamins and other hormones. We also get cholesterol from some of the food that we eat, mainly food from animals, meat, poultry, and dairy. This type of cholesterol can join with other substances to form a thick, hard deposit on the inside of the arteries. And this will make our arteries become more narrow and less flexible. So if you remember with blood pressure, when the blood pressure is too high, that force of that blood going through our arteries is already damaging our blood vessels, and it's making it easier for plaque to build up in those blood vessels. So if we have high blood pressure and then you combine it with high cholesterol, which is also helping to form hard deposits on the inside of the arteries, making our arteries more narrow, less flexible, that's a double whammy that we don't want. There are two types of cholesterol that we need to monitor. One is called the good cholesterol, and the other is called the bad cholesterol. But what are the actual terms for those two types of cholesterol? Instead of saying good and bad, what are they actually called? I'm going to let you pause the presentation and answer that question. Those two terms are HDL and LDL. HDL, high density, and LDL, low density. And so HDL is that good cholesterol, or to help you remember the H, think of healthy cholesterol. The LDL is that bad cholesterol, and to help you remember that, L for lousy, the lousy cholesterol. The LDL cholesterol is the type that contributes to that fatty buildup that we just talked about in the arteries. The HDL cholesterol helps carry the LDL cholesterol away from the arteries back to the liver, and the liver is broken down and is passed from the body. So we actually want the HDL to be higher. We want the LDL to be lower. All adults over 20 should have their cholesterol checked at least every 4 to 6 years. But depending on risk factors that you may have, your doctor may consider you to get your cholesterol checked more often. What can we do to make sure that our cholesterol stays in a healthy place? Well, we want to reduce saturated and trans fat. So that means not eating as much red meat, dairy products with whole milk, limiting those, limiting fried foods, cooking with healthier oils, our vegetable oils, eating more fruit, eating more vegetables, eating more whole grains, eating more fish and nuts are all going to help with that healthy HDL cholesterol, and just becoming more physically active, and again, quit smoking. All right, so blood sugar is the last number that we're going to talk about that we need to know. With blood sugar, many of the foods that we eat breaks down into blood sugar. And we use that sugar for energy, to fuel our brain, to fuel our heart, to fuel our muscles. So we need it. We need blood sugar. But we don't need an abundance of it just moving around in our blood. We want it to move into the cells. When the body has too little insulin, or it's not able to use the insulin properly, it builds up in the blood. It's not moving into the cells, and it just stays in the blood, and that's a problem. because when it's building up in the blood for long periods of time, again, we are damaging those blood vessels, and that can lead to heart disease, to vision issues, to kidney disease, and many other things that we've seen complications from high blood sugar. So here we have three numbers that we're talking about here today: blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. All of these issues are having an effect on our blood vessels, causing our blood vessels to become too narrow, less flexible, less able to allow that blood to just flow through like it should. There's a test that doctors can give that gives a picture of our average blood sugar level over the past 2 to 3 months. What is that test called? Pause the presentation to answer the question. That test is called the A1C test, and your doctor will let you know how often you need to get it done, again, depending on different risk factors, your age, how often you see the doctor. If you go in for an annual physical, they might do it annually. For a person with diabetes, the A1C goal is usually below 7. A normal A1C for a person without diabetes will be below 5.7. So what are those things that we can do to make sure our blood sugar stays in a good range? We can make small changes to the way that we eat without giving up the foods that we love. A lot of times we think that, eating healthy means that I've got to give up all of those things that I enjoy eating. And that is just not true. You can still have those things, but moderation is the real key. And I think really making sure that we focus on eating more fruit and vegetables, making half of our plate fruit and vegetables, getting more whole grains. And when we say whole grain, we mean like the whole grain, that entire grain, nothing stripped or taken away. Um, Things like oatmeal and whole wheat bread. So making small changes, not trying to change our diet, everything overnight, but maybe instead of eating fried chicken, maybe this week I'll do baked chicken, and just put a different type of crust on it in the oven so that it gives me the taste of fried chicken without all the grease. Increasing our physical activity, just, maybe even 10 minutes here and there of physical activity can help. Managing our stress and losing 10 to 15 pounds can make a really big difference on our blood sugar levels as well. In summary, let's just remember blood pressure. We want to be below 120/80. Our cholesterol, for our total cholesterol, we want to go for less than 200. For blood sugar, if we are fasting, less than 100. And again, with the A1C test, if we are a person that does not have diabetes, it would be below 5.7. A person with diabetes, below 7 for our A1C. So what I would like for you all to do to discuss at the end of this presentation is, if you are not aware of what those numbers are, blood pressure, cholesterol, and your blood sugar, what is it you plan to do after this presentation to change that? Or do you plan to do anything to change that? The other thing I want you to discuss is, there are certain things that were mentioned that could help with all three: the blood pressure, the cholesterol, and the blood sugar. Some of the things that we saw over and over were healthy eating, getting more physical activity, quit smoking, and managing our stress. So I'd like for you all to discuss, what is it you plan to do after this presentation, or what are those things that you're already doing to eat healthier, to get physical activity, to quit smoking, or to manage your stress. I hope that this presentation either gave you some new information or just reminded you of what we already should be doing. And I hope that you enjoyed the information that was given and the discussion with your fellow peers. Again, my name is Cheryl Austin, Family and Community Health Agent with Prairie View A&M University Cooperative Extension Program. If you need to get in touch with me for anything, you can contact me by email, slaustin@pvamu.edu. Thank you and have a great day.